All right, welcome to the Explainer. So today we're going to dive into something a little different. It's not a research paper or a news report. Instead, it's this really fiery political poem from Sri Lanka that has captured a huge wave of public feeling. It's this raw expression of frustration, and we're going to break it all down. So, right from the get-go, this poem does not ease you in. It just throws you right into the middle of it all. This opening line, it's not just criticism, it's a total dismissal. Words like foolish, idiotic, thieving, they're not painting a picture of flawed leaders, but of just illegitimate buffoons. And that raw anger, it's really the engine for everything that follows. Okay, so it's really important to get our heads straight about what this is. This is not a news report, and our goal isn't to go and fact-check every claim. We're looking at this poem as a piece of political art. A cultural artifact. Our job here is to dissect its verses and really understand the story it's telling, which is a story of just profound national frustration. So the first big theme the poet goes after isn't just about corruption, though we'll get to that. It's about a fundamental lack of ability. The argument here is that the leadership is just flat out not qualified to govern. I mean, this is such a powerful image, right? The poet uses this over-the-top idea, failing at something as basic as building a prison, to suggest a level of ineptitude that's almost comical. The question it's really forcing you to ask is, if they can't even handle something that simple, how on earth can they run a whole country? And look, this incompetence isn't just some abstract idea. The poem points to these really specific, almost surreal examples. Everything from promoting bizarre health cures to failing on the most basic infrastructure. The common thread through all of this? It's a sharp critique of cronyism, where loyal but totally unqualified people get put in charge of the nation's well-being. And this attack on incompetence, it goes a step further, targeting the very foundation of the state. The poem uses this phrase, a lot of strange lawyers, basically saying the very people who are supposed to be guardians of the law, well, they're ignorant of it. This isn't just about politicians anymore. It's a critique of the core institutions of the country. So you can see how this alleged incompetence connects directly to the poem's second major theme, this deep, widespread corruption. The argument is that the government isn't just failing by accident. No, it's that personal enrichment has become the whole shebang, the entire point of being in power. Okay, this might be the most damning accusation in the entire piece. The poet is claiming that the leadership has actually profited from the country's absolute worst tragedies. We're talking natural disasters and health crises. It's an accusation of profiting directly from the suffering of the very people they're supposed to protect. It's just brutal. And to give these accusations some real teeth, the poem moves from these general claims to a very specific and notorious event. The poem claims the cabinet itself shielded the folks responsible for a scandal that hit the nation's financial heart, the central bank. Now, for anyone not familiar, the central bank bond scandal was a massive political firestorm in Sri Lanka. So, by bringing this up, the poem isn't just making some vague claim. No, it's tapping into this deep, pre-existing well of public anger, giving its poetic accusation a really powerful, real-world anchor. So, how exactly does the poem say this all works? Well, it lays out a whole system. It's not just one big heist, it's a constant grinding process. From slopping on taxes and taking commissions to controlling who gets a business license and even using fines as another source of income. It really paints this picture of a government that's been turned into a machine, with many parts, all designed to squeeze wealth from its own people. And the scale of all this alleged theft? The poem just boils it down to one absolutely staggering word: trillions. By putting that number out there all by itself, the poet is emphasizing the almost unimaginable scope of the alleged corruption, claiming this is a level of looting that's historic in scale. All right, so beyond incompetence and corruption, the poem hits on a third major charge: cultural betrayal. It paints this picture of a ruling class that's just fundamentally alien to the very people it governs. Man, this imagery is just so potent.
The poet calls them a herd of oxen, strong but thoughtless animals, and then sarcastically dresses them up in ties and coats. It creates this caricature of leaders who've put on the clothes and learned the language of foreigners, making them look like total imposters who are disconnected from their own culture.
And right here, the poem's sense of betrayal just becomes crystal clear. It creates this really sharp contrast. On one side, you have this proud history of national heroes, and on the other, a present where that entire legacy has been betrayed. The bottom line, the ultimate accusation, is that this current generation of leaders has completely sold out the nation's heritage to foreign interests. The poem also doesn't shy away from targeting specific political movements, like Viathmaga. By describing its members as a procession of famous fools, the poet just completely dismisses any of the movement's intellectual claims and frames it as just another part of the whole parade of incompetence.
So, okay, after all of this, the incompetence, the corruption, the cultural betrayal, where does that leave us? Well, the poem builds to this final, really powerful verdict that's born from absolute desperation. This line, this is the rawest expression of anger in the entire poem. The narrator is saying that in any other country, the crimes these rulers allegedly committed, and he calls them cattle again, would be met with the most extreme historical punishments. It just conveys this immense depth of pure rage. But then, right after that, there's this really crucial pivot. After imagining such extreme violence, the narrator pulls back. He says he can't commit a sin. This isn't some change of heart. No, it's a really clever rhetorical move. It's like the final wind-up before the poem's absolutely devastating last punchline. And this is it. This is where it all lands. Not with violence, but with total abandonment. The frustration is so complete, the only solution left is this sarcastic, almost desperate plea for literally any other country to just take them. It's the ultimate statement of just being completely fed up. They're not even worth fighting anymore, just forgetting. At the end of the day, this poem really acts like a time capsule for a specific moment of public anger. And it leaves us with a pretty fascinating question, doesn't it? About the role of art in politics. When people feel like they have no other way to be heard, does something like a poem become the most powerful, the most enduring record of their anger? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.